Welcome to It's a Long Road, the Ramble Series podcast. Doug from the Rocky Minute podcast. He is guest starring with me today. How are you doing, Doug?
Guest starring? Wow. Makes me sound a lot more important than I actually am. But
dude,
thanks for having me.
You're a true pleasure, a true joy in real life. And, you're a guest star in my life. So maybe
maybe one day we'll, the stars will align and we'll actually meet in real life.
I know. I definitely want to see you and meet you in person. You and Craig you're like my brothers. And one day, because I know once we do get together, it's just going to be like we've always known each other. It's just going to seem natural.
Yeah. Weird world of, meeting people online. And back in the day, back when we were kids, this wasn't a thing. Like, you didn't know. Like, we had pen pals. remember pen pals?
Oh, yeah. You just trying to find a cute girl to write. That was all.
Yeah, it never worked out that way, though. I always wrote to some other kid from, Germany or something.
I wonder how many pen pals even back then were creepy 55-year-old men writing kids.
That's, it's probably more of a reality than we even know.
Oh, man. Well, Doug, we are now tackling the Rambo franchise. What does the Rambo franchise mean to you?
Well, Rambo was always like the anti-Rocky to me. I was far more of a Rocky fan than a Rambo fan growing up. And, I apologize to show my hand so early in your podcast. I was always a Rocky fan, much more than a Rambo fan. I've seen the Rambos plenty of times, including First Blood, but he was like the anti-Rocky. Rocky was a wholesome character. Rambo was this violent, personally tormented, although as a kid I didn't really see into his psyche like that. But just a violent dude, and I liked the Rockies and the Rambos for two completely different reasons, as a kid.
Sure. It's interesting because Stallone plays both characters, and I guess that's often why people compare the two characters, because it's like, well, Stallone plays both characters, so it's automatic thing. And both are franchises. One has 5, one has, including the Creed films, 8 films. Take away the Creed films, one has 6 Rocky films that star Rocky, the character, and then, of course, 5 Rambo films. So very comparable in their journey, the times that they were released, the mirroring of Stallone's popular culture status. Very interesting to talk about all those things. We're on this journey, on this long road.
Wasn't it always, too, with the Rambos and the Rockies, they were always released, starting now, in the same year? First Blood and Rocky 3 were released in 82, and then Rambo 3? No, First Blood Part 2 and Rocky 4 were released in 85? Am I right about that?
Oh, boy, now you're putting me to the... Yeah. Hey, yeah, this guy doesn't know the release dates of the Rambos. I know First Blood was 82, yes. First Blood Part 2, I believe, was 85. I think 3, that's off the top of my head, was 88. Part 4 was 2008. And then Part 5 was 2019.
I'm way off then, because, not way off, but Rocky 4 was 85, so that
right.
and First Blood Part 2 coincide, but then Rocky 5 was 90.
Yeah, and then Rambo 3 was 88. So it's still kind of
close enough.
Close enough, yeah.
Before you get into the movie, one other thing about Stallone himself, the way he plays these two characters also displays his ability as an actor to play two completely different characters. I mean, they do share certain similarities. On Rocky Minute, we always just praise Stallone for his nonverbal acting. And Rambo, I mean, in his solitary scenes in at least this movie, very little dialogue. He does have some great nonverbal facial acting. In that ways, the characters are somewhat... I mean, it's not the characters, it's Stallone, the way he plays them. But it definitely shows his range, the differences between the two.
Well, I know you've heard my interview with David Morrell, the author and creator.
Phenomenal interview. You know how Craig always says you have the Bill Conti interview? I would say you have the pinnacle David Morrell interview also.
Well, that's very kind of you. I only bring it up because I'm amazing. No, I only bring it up because...
Well, you got him to share very personal stuff that he admitted to never speaking of before.
I don't know where that came from, man. I'm like, for those who want to see, it was actually a video recording. So I put it on my new YouTube channel for It's a Long Road, the Ramble Series podcast. I have no subscribers at this time. But the video's there. So my first video on my podcast is the video version of me, Mr. Morrell, and you can see in his face. And yeah, near the end, he was, holding back crying with the story that he was sharing. And I was just like, holy smokers. I don't know why we're here.
I think it's you and the way you allow your guests to really open up, by the way you present the interview. It's like a conversation. It's not like an interview.
Oh, I appreciate that.
I don't mean to blow smoke up your ass. That's totally not like me.
Yeah, I know. I appreciate it. And so Mr. Morrell, he spoke to Sly's acting. That's why I bring it up, because he talked about how, and I never thought of it this way, and I'm really glad he brought it up, that Sly in this film, a lot of the acting has to do with the eyes. So when we watch this, let's look for, and those who watched the movies with me during this journey, let's look for Sly's eyes, the Sly's eyes, and just to see, and the Sly watch, yes, I watch. So, anyways, the acting that he does with his eyes, and I can see it totally now with that sequence, of course, with the fingerprinting, just how he doesn't say anything, but what he emotes physically is amazing.
He has two different distinct looks. Like he has that when his eyes are kind of droopy and he's just in like quiet contemplation, and then when he's manic, his eyes go really wide when he's doing something that's crazy. No, it's like driving the truck when he's driving the truck through the blockade and everything. Sorry to jump ahead, but
how dare you?
But that's what I noticed about his eyes.
Well, no, before we get into our scenes of the movie, because it's actually not, well, I'd say it's not the majority of the show, but when I have a guest on, especially when it's your first time on the show, I do want to hear more about your thoughts on Rambo, the character, and the film First Blood. But you said you hadn't seen it in a while, and you said that you originally wanted to put the film in just to kind of see the sequences that we'd be talking about, just so it's fresh in your mind, which is totally fair. But then you ended up watching the whole thing. That's First Blood, man.
Yeah, it draws you in. As a kid growing up, I saw Rambo 2 a lot more than I saw this, just because it was more action for a kid. Just the same reason why I saw Rocky 4 more than I saw the original Rocky growing up. I found this movie as a kid kind of boring because it has slow moments. The action pieces are tremendous, but you have to wade through a lot of slowness to get to those. But Rambo as a character, now it's like I said, as a kid, I saw him as a violent person, just like to shoot people, exploding arrows and blowing shit up and everything. And on the surface, that's what Rambo is. But when you cut through that and get into the whole him actually personally suffering, and that's his true character. He's just a guy that's carrying around a lot of weight. I don't know a whole lot of veterans, but unfortunately with the scope of my job as a police officer, I see the worst of people. A number of people that I come into contact with that are prone to violence, I find out are also veterans.
Wow. Interesting. It's too bad. I mean, it's unfortunate. That's the correlation. Yeah.
It is. You know, you talk to the parents and you know, they're like, oh, he wasn't always like this, you know, and it's sad. It really is sad that they have to carry around what they've seen, because shit you see in war is not meant for human eyes. We're just not built to withstand such trauma. And to see Rambo, as far as I know, is really the first movie or book, because the book was written first, was really the first character that displayed PTSD and addressed it. Not calling it PTSD because they didn't call it that back then, but addressing the traumas that these guys have gone through.
Yeah, it was a really revolutionary, at least the mainstream. Maybe something was delved into on some TV show on, who knows, from the 60s or 70s. I don't know. But we've seen it before where, a character has been damaged. You know, wasn't that book Johnny Grab His Gun or whatever that book was? So there's definitely has been stories about characters suffering because of war. But the idea, what David Morrell did here, I love that idea of bringing the war home. So not just the post-traumatic stress, but literally Rambo brings the war onto American soil. He brings that war back. It's like a ghost that follows you from house to house. He carries this actual war to this poor small town. And
like his inability to adjust back to civilian life.
Yeah.
Once he experienced the war, he couldn't let it go.
Amazing, amazing story. So here we go. Craig and I, on our first episode, we got to the part where Rambo is about to enter the town of Hope. Now, of course, this is actually a real town, a real big town, small city, I guess you could say. It's grown even since 1982, but it still exists here in British Columbia, my province that I live in. Hope, British Columbia.
Have you ever been there? You ever go to see the shooting locations?
Have I ever been there? Yes, I have. Well, you drive through Hope to go to Alberta, and we had a family in Alberta. So I did a couple times as a kid. And I think I remember my dad saying at one point when I was little, because I didn't understand geography or whatever, but I remember him saying like, oh, this is where Rambo was filmed. In my brain, I was like, Rambo was here? And I remember kind of like looking around, like he's out in the woods. So a little bit, I'm kind of amazed but scared at the same time, you know. But it's a few hour drive. Like I have to take a ferry from where I live to the mainland, and then it's a bit of a drive. So I haven't been there in a long time to say I am going to Hope to look at the sites. But I think now that I'm doing this podcast, and obviously BC is my home province, like your home state, I'm definitely going to make a trip to Hope. Now with the internet and everything, it's going to be a lot easier to actually find the exact locations of where things were shot and stuff. Pre-internet, I probably would have had a hard time trying to figure out where exactly was the cliff or where exactly was the...
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Because I live in New Jersey, which is a stone's throw away from Philadelphia, so I can drive into Philly and see the Rocky locations at any time.
Yeah, you lucky bastard.
I've only done it once, though.
Yeah, just like in the Rocky films, you can run up the steps in Philadelphia at the Art Museum. Well, they also have the same exhibit for First Blood. You can go on the cliff and jump off of it.
Or scale along the side of it.
Yeah, you get to fall in the tree and sew up your own arm and everything.
Yeah, nice.
All right, so Rambo's about to walk into this town. And it's great because they actually got a place called Hope. Now, in the book, it was, I forget now. I think it was Madison, Connecticut or something like that, maybe. Boy, I already forgot the town. But I know the town's name was Madison because that's my daughter's name. I guess it was like a central southern state.
It wasn't Washington in the
No,
book?
it's not. And so in the movie, it's Hope, Washington. So it's definitely you can see the scenery, it's Pacific Northwest look to it. But it's British Columbia where it's filmed. So obviously the scenery has changed a little bit than the town of Madison. I always think it's crazy. Like, there's cars driving in and out of this town here. Now, they have a film crew set up here, but you got to figure that's just people driving to and from work or whatever.
I always wonder that about movies.
Yeah.
Like, how much of the traffic do they block off and just have some, not stunt cars, but, intentionally placed cars drive through for the aesthetic?
Yeah, there's a car coming towards Sly, on the other side of the road. Like, there's somebody in that car driving in 82. Do they say, okay, we want you to drive? No, it's probably just people. It's probably early. It looks like early morning. You see the sun is a little bit low here. So it's probably people just driving to and from whatever through the town. And they just have a camera on the side of the road filming Sly walk. And it's just people like, hey, that's my van.
In the van. Yeah, it's like my van was in Rambo.
Oh, I guarantee it, man. I guarantee you say my van was in Rambo. I would. All right. So now he's walked into town and now we cut to the incredible Brian Dennehy.
His skill as an actor is tremendous. I don't even know what else to say. He toes the line, too, because he's not all bad, I don't think.
No.
I don't know if that's the intention. And it's interesting what David Morrell said about the Teasle character, kind of modeling him after his own stepfather, Morrell's own stepfather, and how Rambo and Teasle have that antagonistic relationship out of mistrust, because that's how David Morrell felt about his own stepfather.
Brian Dennehy plays Sheriff Will Teasle. Now, in the book, I forgot to ask the exact age, but I think Rambo in the book is probably 21 to 22. And Sheriff Teasle is probably close to 40. Not over 40, but old enough just that he could have been Rambo's father by age, like 20 years older. In this movie, now believe it or not, Brian Dennehy, Doug, I believe in this film, is 46.
They were closer.
And Sly was 36.
Oh, okay. I thought they were even closer in age than that.
No. We should also note that the film, it takes place in 82, and the events, I know we have a listener of our show who thinks otherwise, or used to listen to our show who thinks otherwise. The events take place in 82. I can't remember if I talked about that with David or if it was with Craig, but just in general, that it just makes more sense just to film it in current time. And that, I think it was David Morrell, where Sly is he is older. He's an older actor, so he's 36. It's still believable that Sly, or the veteran Rambo, is older, because in the book he's 21, 20. Like, he's just really has only recently left the war. Rambo's been out of the war now for 7-8 years.
Also, I heard that in the book, and part of the reason why they have this antagonistic relationship is because Teasle was a veteran of the Korean War.
Yes.
And Rambo was a veteran of the Vietnam War, and Teasle felt that the accomplishments of the Americans in the Korean War had been forgotten, and everybody's focusing now on the veterans of the Vietnam War, and there's kind of a little bit of jealousy there because Teasle believes like his contributions have been forgotten, even though he was a well-decorated Marine himself.
And that was a movie thing. That wasn't a book thing.
It wasn't in the book?
No, he is a Korean veteran, and he actually has the second highest medal from the Korean War, Teasle. They're both soldiers, and they're both veterans of war. The main conflict is how similar they were, how accomplished they were in their own right. But Teasle never had a son, and he wanted to have children. And he's going through a divorce in the book because he wanted to have a child, and his ex-wife-to-be didn't want to have kids, and she was moving away, or she moved away. There's a whole side story of him trying to resolve things with his ex-wife-to-be. He sees Rambo partly as himself, as a younger version of himself, but also as somebody he could have fathered and helped. And he has father issues as well. So both Teasel and Rambo have father issues. So there's father issues abound in this book. There's very little talk about the Vietnam versus Korean War meant. If there was, I missed it completely. There was very little discussion about what the Vietnam vets were going through. At the time, the Vietnam War was still going during the writing of this book. It was still happening.
Maybe it was in deleted scenes then or something, because it was never explicitly said. But if I'm not mistaken, later on in the movie, you can see Teasel's medals.
Yeah,
they're
there. And I think he mentions something about the Korean War in First Blood. I mean, it's been a little while since I've seen the whole film all the way through. Not like a long time, probably a year or two.
But back to our first impression of Teasel, in this scene, he's a very polite guy. He's saying hi to the townspeople. You would think in the town he's a recognized, polite guy. He's nice to the citizens. He appears, by all intents and purposes, appears to be a good sheriff to his men, a good boss.
Yeah, I want to get his age just to confirm. I believe he's 40. He just looks older.
He does. But people aged weird back in the 80s.
Why is that?
I don't know. Not just the 80s, even earlier than that. Because of all the smoking and the drinking that people did back then. It just...
What's 82?
He was born in 30-something, right?
38. He's 44 in this film.
Jesus, he's my age. I'm going to be 44 next month.
Oh my gosh. That'd be like you playing... Teasel.
Oh my God.
I'm going to cast Doug Greenberg as Sheriff Will Teasel in the remake. You could be cast right now in the remake of Rambo. That is hilarious. Unlike Rocky, because Rocky was created by Sylvester Stallone, so I get the connection that people have of never recasting or redoing the Rocky films. I get that. It's Sly's creation, his images, from his brain came the character. But to be fair to the Rambo character, Sly put it into the popular culture stratosphere, yes, but he didn't create the character.
Correct.
So Rambo is not as sacred in the sense of, it's not quite the sacred cow that Rocky is. I think Rambo, and I have no problem with it. And look, I actually don't have any problem with Rocky being rebooted in the sense of one day Sly's going to die. Is he going to be alive in 20 years? Unlikely. It's a great story. People can argue all you want about that, and I know I'm maybe on the minority, but part of me is like, a good story is a good story, and if you could retell that story with different people to a new generation, they're still going to go back to the original. It happens all the time. People go back to, like, oh, I want to see the one start. I mean, people went back to the original after seeing Creed. Creed 1 and 2 is like a reboot of the Rocky series. People watched Creed 1 because it was a new film, and they went back and watched the Rocky films because of their love of Creed.
Yeah, Rocky got a whole new generation of fans because of Creed.
So I say this with the Rambo films. Rambo, by all means, reboot it. Make it, and I think First Blood, Quentin Tarantino kind of teased that he wouldn't mind doing First Blood.
A Quentin Tarantino First Blood would be unbelievable.
It would be insane.
I think that would be incredible, yeah.
Quentin said, of course, that he would follow closely the source material and the psychological drama, the violence. The book is incredibly violent. It's a Quentin Tarantino violent book.
A lot more killing, that's for sure. But if you put it in anybody's capable hands, I would say his are as capable as anyone's.
Yeah. Yeah, I love it. You know, nice little music. He kind of struts out of the cop's office and puts on his cowboy hat, of course. He's got he's the sheriff.
With the American flag behind him. Like, he's Mr. America right now.
It's incredible. You know, smiles, takes in the morning air.
Everybody's favorite sheriff right there.
Well, it is a small town. He's been there his whole life. And so he is a staple both as a resident and, of course, it's the highest ranking type law authority in town. He is the law. Burped up his coffee and donuts there.
Morning, Amy. How you doing, girls?
Great.
All right this morning?
Yeah, so it is morning, and he's saying hi to the locals. He knows that's Annie.
Yeah, yep. Morning, Sheriff.
Andy.
Howdy, Will.
I was going to say, he put on his hat for a very short distance. He put on his hat, walked down the stairs, and he gets into his cop cruiser, takes it off again. So.
This has to be intentionally done to display that he's not just a cold-hearted bastard. That's a miserable guy.
The town likes him. He's not the sheriff bully in town. Townsfolk like him. People are saying hi to him. He's a congenial, nice individual who runs the town. This is like
the opening. As a guy that loves westerns, you should know. Like, this is like the opening of a western.
Yeah.
You know, the sheriff walks out into the street and greets the town, says hello to everybody as he's conducting his business.
And David Morrell said he wrote this as a western. There you go. Perfect.
Morning, Dave.
Hi, Sheriff.
Guy wearing a hard hat, just walking down the street.
I love his Andy.
Morning, Sheriff.
Morning, Sheriff. All right. At some point, Sheriff, you're gonna have to stop saying hi to people. You're never gonna get your day started. There's somebody walking by into your car. You never said hi to him. Now he's gonna feel left out the whole day.
Right.
Oh, did you catch that?
Did you take a bath this week?
Now we're already seeing this guy he's a bit of a dick right there.
Yeah. He's trading barbs with the locals.
No, but he didn't say it loud enough for him to hear. We heard as an audience, but I don't think that guy heard it. He walked away. No, because he took a bath this week. I think he's saying it under his breath, but we hear it as an audience member, but Dave doesn't hear it.
So he's a nice guy, but kind of a dick.
Yeah. Classic shot of the Greyhound driving by.
Morning.
All right, so now already Sheriff Teasel has greeted Rambo just outside the city limits there. I love the scenery shots all around these guys, man.
Yeah. Yes.
Like every shot, the mountains, the clouds, no CGI, no green screen. That's just real scenery everywhere.
It's a very pretty part of, let's say America, but it's Canada.
Yeah, let's keep in mind that, yes, this story takes place in the U.S., but everything you've seen is British Columbia.
That's just because it's cheaper to film up there. It's not for the scenery.
Yeah, all right.
I kid.
No, it's true, though. You're right. Tax breaks or something, they say. But it's beautiful there. I mean, Washington State and Oregon are beautiful states, too, but British Columbia is a beautiful province. It's actually on our license plate. It says, Beautiful British Columbia. That's our tagline. That's our moniker for our province, yeah.
You visiting somebody around here? Wearing that flag on that jacket. Looking the way you do. You're asking for trouble around here, friend.
This is the one point with David Morrell. I would say disagreed with him, but I showed him my understanding of this scene because he talked about when he saw this in the theaters with other long-haired individuals back in 82. And I know this was his generation. Having long hair when he was younger, that was a big thing. If you had long hair, you were considered a hippie, anti-government, all that stuff, or anti-establishment. And that was what long hair meant. Now, Sly does have long hair here. It's not like hair metal long.
Not Rambo 3 long.
No. Beautiful Rambo 3. But that being said, and he's clean shaven too. Of course, the character in the book, he has a beard and the hair's even longer. Sly should have had a beard in this film. That would have been amazing.
Should have been more Nighthawk Sly than.
But it's a movie in that he's the star. He wants to show his face. He wants to show his mug. Let's be honest. He's got a very handsome, square-jawed face here. He's going to show it off. That's the whole thing. I think a movie today, if it was made, I think they would have foregone the vanity part of it, and then the actor, I guarantee you, would have a beard in today's film. So right away, Teasel says, looking the way you do. What I focused on all these years, and it wasn't until the long hair discussion in the book and then David Morrell talking about that, I was like, oh, they're talking about the long hair. That seems to be the big issue back then. It was actually, for me, it was just, like he says, wearing that flag and wearing that jacket. What does that mean to you as an American when you hear, but the American flag, I know what it represents, obviously, to different people from different ways, but why is the flag so divisive in your own country?
I mean, now it's not.
Okay.
Now it's, the symbol of unity. But back after the years following Vietnam, the veterans, he looks like a Vietnam vet.
Yeah.
They wore those field jackets. And
yes.
I don't know about the flags, but in my mind, the typical post-Vietnam vet looked like Rambo with the green jacket, the long hair, maybe a beard, even possibly a headband. That's like the grizzled old Vietnam vet that you think of. Those guys weren't welcomed home from war with open arms. Maybe right off the bat, Teasel recognizes him as a Vietnam vet, and his war is already forgotten. What he's doing is profiling. He has no legal right to stop Rambo, and just because he's a stranger in his town, he's profiling him as somebody who looks suspicious.
Did you find it interesting that Delmar and his family live outside of town?
Yeah, right outside.
We don't want your folk in our town.
Yeah, exactly.
Seriously, I wondered about that.
I don't know.
Headed north or south?
North.
I love that he goes, are you heading north or south? And Rambo just arbitrarily picks north.
Wherever.
Now jump in. I'll make sure you're heading the right direction. Huh?
Great acting there, Jump in, I'll make sure you're heading in the right direction, huh? The look on Dennehy's face, of course, Teasel's face is like, you know what I'm talking about, the direction out of my town.
But his presentation of it comes off in a friendly way.
I know we've seen this movie before, so we know where the character's heading, but you just get that sense right away that, boy, Teasel doesn't like this guy. And he's already starting to push him, already pushing him. Now, in the book, just so people know, and maybe even in the movie, but they don't talk about the movie, but in the book, Rambo has gone to 15 different towns just like this one. And he's been pushed and mistreated. And it wasn't until this town that it broke him. I think that's why, and partly in this film, he's less crazy in the film, because we don't see the journey of Rambo, the character, so much. So he's more sympathetic. Even still, in the book, as crazy as he went, you're still sympathizing with a little bit because he's been spit upon and mistreated in everywhere he's gone in America. And it wasn't until this town where he finally said, because he has conversations with himself in his head. And he's like, you could have let this one go. You could have let this one go like you did in the other towns. But you wanted this fight. You wanted to show him what you could do. And that was the conversation that Rambo has with himself. That he kind of wanted to show Teasle what he was capable of.
In this film, after he's arrested, he's actually abused by the police. Did any of that happen in the other towns, or was the abuse really what triggered him?
He got verbally abused and kind of mishandled by not just police, but the public. Even other street people attacked him and stuff. So he was everywhere he went, no matter law enforcement to public to homeless people. He just got harassed. So he just broke.
That's the bane of the Vietnam vet.
Yeah,
at that time.
So he doesn't verbally comply, but he's like, he kind of does a mini sigh there, and he goes, "Okay, I'll jump into the cruiser."
I mean, in his mind, maybe he's saying like, "Oh, town that doesn't want me."
Yeah, he could be saying that right now. Like, what is going through his mind right now? It's hard to say, but he does get into the cruiser.
Where you headed?
Portland.
Portland is south. You said you were headed north.
I love that little moment there. I catch it every time. So Teasle says, you said you're going north, but Portland's south. And then Rambo just goes, no. He doesn't explain what the no is for. Like, did you catch that?
I didn't, but
watch it again. Watch it again. Like, it is such a weird little moment.
He's saying no, I didn't say I was going.
Tell me what he's saying no to.
Where you headed?
Portland.
Portland is south. You said you were headed north.
What does he say no to?
Yeah, I don't know. He says no.
Yeah.
Now, there's a couple theories I have, because it's editing, right? Now, apparently, there's a 3.5 hour cut of this film that Sly hated.
Right.
Did you hear about that?
Yeah, I did. Against everything that we've come to know about Sly, he wanted his part cut.
Yes. Now, I'm wondering, so maybe in this conversation here, Teasle said something. They thought, I'll just say no. Because there's a line, he just rolls right into another line right after that little no. So maybe it would have been too weird to edit because he says no. And then he starts talking about something else. So maybe they thought, oh, crap, where did we put this no? There might have been a longer conversation in the car.
Right. Because
he rolls right into another piece of dialogue. It would have been too choppy to edit the no and then have him start talking. So that's one theory. Or he's just like being dismissive, saying, no, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what I said or where we're going. He just wants to have a bite to eat, right? Sly is an interesting character, and I love him. But boy, is he interesting. And he's complicated. And I wonder what that 3.5 hour cut was like. Because he said that if anyone saw it, it would have destroyed his career.
Yeah, he hated his own performance so much.
It's weird.
Like, what happened in that cut? It's not described, is it? He just
long cut. He hates it. I don't think it's ever seen the light of day. It's so weird.
He tried to buy the rights to the film so he could have it destroyed.
Yeah. I just hope we still get to see the 3.5 hour cut of Party, Kitty, and Studs. That's what I'm hoping for.
You always go for the Kitty and Stud joke. Every time.
Someplace I can eat around here?
There's a diner about 30 miles up the highway.
30 miles.
Wow.
He wants him 30 miles. How long does it take you to walk 30 miles?
Oh, quite a while. And of course, Rambo's like, are you kidding me? Like, he's realizing, oh, this guy does not want me in this town. And he's thinking, of course, I'm an American citizen. I fought for this country. This is what's already going through his mind. What's going on here? Am I not allowed to walk freely in my country? And that's a very good question. Why can't he freely? Like, what is this? North Korea?
What's Teasle's problem with him? And what's everybody's problem with him? Okay, just because he's a veteran of an unpopular, does that mean that he's going to wreak havoc in your town?
In the book, Teasle talks about he's run into people like him before. This is an issue that happened in the States during the time, that hippies were picked up by cops. That's what David Morrell's genesis of the book was, too, that he saw it on the news that people were literally picked up by police. No offense to you as a police officer, but this was obviously the 70s. They were picked up by police. They were shaving, haircuts, and like they changed their... Can you imagine arresting someone and shaving their head, Doug?
No.
That's what they did back then.
It's a time that's long forgotten, thank God. People were afraid of the cops back then because the cops doled out serious punishments.
Yeah.
They were the law and the trial judge and everything. And they carried out the punishments themselves.
And you got to figure Teasle, too, sees a competent person here. He's no slouch. You can tell he's stiff-backed, square jaw. He's a veteran. He's younger than Teasle. Being a veteran himself, he sees danger. He kind of recognizes, like Teasle recognizes danger. He recognizes somebody who carries himself in a way that this guy... He's bad news, and he's not wrong. So Teasle is profiling, but he's also not wrong. Like, his profile is correct. Now, Rambo, had he just gotten a bite to eat, would have left town. We know that. We know that he just would have left town. He would have gone to his 17th town, and maybe there he would have lost his marbles if somebody else pushed him. Mm-hmm. Again, he got pushed too much here.
Is there any law against me getting something here?
Yeah, me.
Right there. Mm-hmm. I'm the law that says you can't eat here. This is his town.
Yep. He's the police, judge, and jury.
That's right.
Why are you pushing me?
I just love that part. Can you imagine this conversation really happening? But I love it. Why are you pushing me?
And it's the first time he turns and looks Teasel in the eye, too. Yeah. He was looking straight ahead and one-word answers and everything. And the second he feels he's being pushed, now he turns. And this is where they're antagonistic.
It was kind of subtle before. I'll make sure you're going the right direction. Yeah, there's a diner 30 miles away. So Ram was like, okay, dude, what the F's your problem? But I love that term. Instead of saying, what's your problem? That's a great way to say it. Why are you pushing me? I love that term instead. That's a great way of saying it.
Yeah.
What did you say?
So why are you pushing me? I haven't done anything to you.
First of all, you don't ask the questions around here. I do. You understand? Secondly, we don't want guys like you in this town. Drifters. First thing you know, we got a whole bunch of guys like you in this town. That's why. Besides, you wouldn't like it here. It's a quiet little town. In fact, you might say it's boring. But that's the way we like it.
When he says, I ask the questions around here, and that's everything that I hate about police today. Okay?
And you're speaking as an officer.
Yeah, nobody knows what kind of cop I am because I don't talk about it much. But in my career, I started off like this, where instead of being that guy that wants to confront everybody with, I wear the badge, I'm the law, I call the shots, you actually listen. You listen to what the people have to say, and then you adjust the way you react to it based on the way they handle it. If you're encountering everybody and you say, no, I ask the questions, you answer what I'm asking you, what kind of response do you think you're going to get from that guy?
Well, you're not, serving the public? Correct me if I'm wrong, but your job as a police officer is to keep the peace, is to, to keep the peace. Don't antagonize people you're talking to, because you're probably dealing with a lot of mental health issues too. You're dealing with people that are, and I feel bad for you guys because you're dealing with people at their worst, and you guys aren't trained doctors or psychologists. Your job is to protect the public too. So you're basically saying, hey, this guy is off his rocker or whatever it might be, through drugs, alcohol, or mental illness, or both, or everything. Mm-hmm. Yeah, sometimes you got to handcuff him and just take him away or her away from this, so they're not hurting other people. Like, it's just, and you got to be tough. But at the same time, I totally agree with you. Saying if you're pulling someone for a speeding ticket, and the guy says, "Oh, was I going to?" Hey, I asked the questions here. I will let you. Like, whoa! You pulled me over. Like, already, you put this poor guy on. It's like, I'm just wondering why you're pulling me over, sir. Like I have a right as a taxpayer to know why the hell an officer has pulled me over. This is a scary moment for me as a citizen. Just let me know why you pulled me over. He could say, "Oh, just so you know, your taillight's out. I just want to make sure you're safe." "Oh, thank you, sir. That's very kind of you." It's normal for us to ask, "Why are you in my face?"
It's completely true. And there's still, I don't know how many Sheriff Teasels there are out there. There's still quite a few, I'm sure. But we are, as police throughout the country, not just, my small department, we're getting a lot more training in de-escalation techniques and tactics. And instead of escalating a situation, we try to use calm tones and questions and stuff to de-escalate a situation. And I'm sure and all of your listeners know that police violence is a sore subject these days. We're really, throughout the country, are taking the right steps towards limiting that.
I'm proud of you there, honestly. And I actually had you on this episode because I knew this would come up, because Teasel, this is the first introduction to Teasel. I wanted, my friend who's a sergeant in the police force to be here to see mannerisms that Teasel's here. And you're saying that, for the record, this is not good police work. No,
I could honestly say, as the technical advisor of this podcast, this is not. No, I mean, we could get into it later, like how I, as a police officer, would handle.
This is why you're here. Yeah.
The way he encountered him is fine. He pulls up to him. Hi, how you doing today? Visiting somebody. I think he loses him when he attacks the way he looks. I would keep asking him more questions. Where are you headed? You're headed to Portland. You know somebody there. You have family there. He's okay in offering him a ride to the edge of town or whatever.
Okay. Are you allowed to do that? Are you allowed to give people rides?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. I actually didn't know. Yeah.
I wouldn't put him in the front seat, though.
Fair enough. Yeah.
You take him to the edge of town. Once he asks, can I get something to eat? I mean, I wouldn't try to discourage that. I'd say, yeah, you want something to eat? I can direct you into the best spot in town. I'd drive him there, drop him off. If you're suspicious of the guy, maybe you stay close.
Sure.
Like you let him go in, but you hang down the street just for a little bit to make sure that there's no issues inside. But there's no reason to escalate the situation the way Teasel does.
Yeah, well, it wasn't Doug Greenberg that picked up John Rambo.
I find asking questions and like trying to get to know somebody. You can ask him. I mean, maybe not ask him about the war, but the way he's dressed, be like, "Oh, you were in Nam."
You can relate with him. Say, I served in Korea.
Yeah, exactly. That's another big tactic: is relating to somebody with your own personal experiences.
Yeah. Let's continue this conversation.
And I get paid to keep it that way.
Boring.
Oh, yeah, I want to say he senses that danger, of course, in Rambo. So he's like, you don't want to be here. This is not a playground that you want to play in. This is just a boring town. Nothing to see here. There's no game for you to hunt here. There's nothing here that's going to excite you. You need danger. You need excitement. So he's almost twisting it back on Rambo, saying,
You'll find more excitement somewhere else.
Go to Portland. You'll find lots of excitement in Portland. It's a much bigger town. But then Rambo says boring, and he kind of looks down. There's a part of him, I would say, he probably wants boring. All he's seen is drama and action and terrifying things.
Yeah.
He wants boring. And so the idea here, I think it hits him a little bit where he's saying, you're trying to sell me boring as a bad thing, but actually that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for boring. I don't want drama. Thus my question, why are you pushing me? I actually just want a peaceful meal and move on.
Maybe he's in search of a place to plant roots.
Yeah, exactly. Start a family, have little ramblings. So this is a great shot here of the bridge that the police cruiser drives across. So this would be a spot I would have to visit in Hope, that bridge. The classic scene where he drops off Rambo.
Portland, straight ahead.
Now, I love how he says Portland straight ahead. Rambo gets out of the car, but then Teasel turns on the lights. What's that all about? Why would he turn on the lights getting Rambo out of the car?
If you stop in the middle of traffic, yeah, you'd want to turn the lights on to alert the other cars, but there's nobody around. I don't know what that purpose is.
I think it might be just to tell Rambo, yeah, like, okay, this is a police matter now. Like, I've dumped you off here as a police officer, not as a friend, maybe.
Right.
If you want some friendly advice, get a haircut and take a bath. You wouldn't get hassled so much.
So right there, he says it was plain as day. Yeah, you don't want to get hassled? Look like the establishment. Look like a government FBI boy.
He has to get in that one last dig. He doesn't want your advice. Right?
Yeah, it's friendly advice. What are you talking about? It's friendly advice.
You're just giving him one last shot. You almost had him. You almost had him out of your town, but you had to mess with him one last time.
And I love how he says, you want some friendly advice? Get a job. Oh, really? You want to be a homeowner? Buy a home. Okay.
Yeah. Sure.
Hope this ride helped you out.
And here comes some of Sly's great, quiet, silent.
Have a nice day, huh?
He said, hope this ride helped you out. He drives right. Have a nice day, huh? Oh, you bet there, sir. Yeah, you have a good day, too. So now Teasel's driving back to town. Yeah, so Teasel's driving away. Have a nice day there, Mr. Rambo. Off he goes. But this sequence is coming up. Of course, our listeners can't see it, but they've seen the film 100 times. I'm sure all of our listeners are big First Blood fans. The sequence that will be coming up is just so well done. It's just amazing how it's shot. Rambo looks... Thunder. Yeah. Rambo looks at the cruiser drive away. Faces it. And I love this moment because he's thinking, do I go out of town or do I go back? He's actually thinking, and in the book, this is actually the discussion he's having in his head. Of course, he can't do this in a movie, thoughts in his head, but acted very well. We know exactly what Rambo's thinking here. Choices, decisions.
And this here is one of Sly's strengths as an actor. Because he does portray that internal conflict a little bit. If I walk away, especially after what you told me about the book, if I walk away, I can go to another town and get treated the same way, or I can make a stand and stick up for myself.
Exactly. And listen to that music cue.
Collar. Yeah.
Listen to that music. Do. So right there, he lifts up his collar. He's made his decision. That's a great music cue from Jerry Goldsmith. And that's why knowing the book's a little bit helpful because he's pissed now. Like he knows by going back, he's going to start a war. He's made that decision.
Look at that face right now.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah, before leading up to this, he had that quiet contemplation look about earlier, and now he's flipping his collar. He's kind of flipped his switch, so to speak.
Yeah.
You can see some anger in his eyes. He's not going to put up with it anymore. And the thunder that you hear right before this is like the coming storm.
Rambo just crosses the bridge just enough. Teasel sees in the rearview mirror. Not even that surprised, really. He's not even that surprised that he's coming back to town. And so now Teasel, great confrontation coming up.
Teasel's done playing the nice guy.
Yeah, the quote-unquote nice guy, yeah.
Where do you think you're going? Hey, I'm talking to you, goddammit.
Now this, as a police officer, would aggravate me if you're addressing somebody and they just walk past you like you don't even exist. You know goddamn well you hear me.
Did he call him an a-hole there, though? Did I catch that?
I don't know. Play it back.
Where the hell do you think you're going? Hey, I'm talking to you, goddammit. Let me see some ID.
All right. Ooh, that musical cue.
Put your hand on him. Mm-hmm.
So he grabs him. Let me see some ID and grabs him. What do you do in this situation, Doug?
Well, you don't just try to grab somebody like that. You stop him. I would stand in front of him to try to like interrupt his progress. Maybe put my hands up. You don't grab somebody by the wrist. That's just asking for trouble.
Now, in the book, it's really amazing. He talks about how in this confrontation in the book, he has a lot of inner dialogue because at this moment, he knows that he could actually destroy Teasel right now. Bare hand. Talks about how he could rip his spine out of his back, break him in 5 different places, all this, grab his gun and blow him, like all these things. You just hear what he can do. The images in his mind of Rambo is a very accomplished killer, very accomplished, but he holds back. So right now, this is Rambo holding back. He's allowing Teasel to a degree to do what he's doing here. It's a game now for Rambo a little bit. Yeah. So Teasel grabs his arm, Rambo pulls back, and now Teasel, I believe, is right away grabs for his weapon or puts his hand on his holster.
Well, the way Rambo rips his arm away, it's not just a show of defiance. He's actually violently rips his hand away and kind of takes an offensive stance.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. He's ready to fight.
Yeah.
All right, you're under arrest.
What, at this point, is he under arrest for?
I guess you could get him for obstruction of justice. I mean, he's not preventing any admission of the law.
It's tough.
You know, but yeah, that is tough. I mean, he disobeyed your unlawful order to get out of town. I really don't know. What are you arresting him for?
Yeah, I don't want to put you on the spot because this is a tricky situation because now Teasel's made it his deal to stop him from coming to town, and Rambo's doesn't want to obey that order from the law. But I mean, is it against the law for him to come back to town? Like, is that a law that he can't come to town? Or
you can't lawfully throw somebody out of your town. I mean, they book him later for vagrancy. Vagrancy isn't illegal, at least in New Jersey.
Right.
I don't know if it is anywhere, but just being
it must have been at some point.
Being a wanderer isn't illegal.
If I'm walking on the street, this is like essentially what he's doing right now. He's walking, I mean, really in the wilderness almost. It just happens to be a paved road there. So he's walking back to town. Do I really have to stop because you told me to stop?
Now, 1982 laws are clearly different nowadays, but now you can get out of your car and speak to anybody. You don't have to have a lawful purpose, but to stop them, to detain them, to stop their path of travel.
They're just walking.
But to stop them, to say like, oh, come here, let me talk to you for a second. You need a lawful purpose to do that.
Yeah.
You could say, hey, how you doing? And if the guy chooses to stop and engage with you and talk to you, then it's perfectly lawful. But once you prevent them from leaving, once you say, no, like I'm going to ask you some questions and you're going to answer them, you have to have a lawful purpose to do that.
I have a reason to believe you're a dangerous person. Maybe that's what Teasel thinks. Maybe he thinks he's dangerous. To be fair to Teasel a little bit, I'm not trying to throw him under the bus. So maybe he's made it a war. I understand that. But at this moment, he feels like Rambo has some dangerous intentions for his town. So you could argue that he is trying to protect his town. That his intention, though, as the antagonist of the film, isn't horrible. He does see a dangerous... He senses right away, he knows this guy is dangerous by the way he reacts to it. Like, oh boy, the way he ripped my arm off from his arm. Boy, this guy is strong. He knows how to respond to contact. I would say Teasel's probably a little bit, I would say afraid at this moment too, but he's like, oh, I have a wild animal here.
Yeah, his senses kind of peak.
Yeah.
You hear me? Now put your hands on the car. Now you put your hands on the car and you spread them. Now you're going to put your hands on that car. How you do it, you decide right now.
He puts his hand on his gun, says, you're going to put your hands on the car, and how you do it, it's going to happen. You can either do it willingly or I'll shoot you.
Yeah, 1982 might be different, but you can't.
Yeah, you can't do that. You can't threaten somebody with a death.
No.
Because right now, Ramble's just standing there. There's no indication that he's going to do anything violent. He's just standing there.
Well, okay, let's assume that this is a lawful stop, and he does have a law enforcement reason to arrest Rambo here. Rambo refusing to put his hands on the car. It's resisting arrest. It's grounds for... At that point, you can put your hands on the guy. Now you can take a defensive tactics approach to arresting the guy. That doesn't mean slapping him with your billy stick or open field tackle.
Right.
There's a very thin line between effecting an arrest and going overboard.
So in the book, again, this is where, I think it's at this point exactly where Ramble's like, I can kill him right now, but I won't. So that's what's going through his head, I think, in the film, is we don't see the thoughts, but keep in mind the character that was created by David Morrell is Rambo could have killed Teasel right here, but he doesn't. He says he would have been able to grab that gun before he could have drawn it.
I'm glad that you read that you have the knowledge of the book to kind of explain what's going on through Rambo's mind.
Yeah,
because that was one when I was reading the Rocky II novel. Getting into Rocky's head was one of my main purposes.
Yeah,
to find out what's going on. Rambo's even more complex character than Rocky's.
It's that little sigh that he does right there.
Look at his eyes change. He doesn't have that anger in him anymore.
Yeah, he's like, okay, I'm not going to kill him.
Yeah.
Get your legs back. Get them back. Hey, try to be nice to some people.
Nice.
So he starts frisking him, try to be nice to some people. You can kind of sense he's almost kind of relieved that Rambo's not fighting right now.
As a police officer, I would handcuff him before I search him.
Good point. I didn't even catch that. Yeah, his hands are just on the car, but you'd want to have his hands not free to just turn around and start strangling you or whatever.
Yeah.
Well, what do we have here, huh? Why would you be carrying a knife like this?
So he pulls out the big hunting knife. Now, again, this knife was not in the book. David Morrell talks about that this prop was something that Sly wanted. He always likes to fidget and have stuff in his hand, which explains Rocky and the Ball, by the way, for the Rocky films. He always, Stallone likes to fidget and have things in his hands. He wanted that knife for the character, and so that was a Sly addition to the film, to having that prop.
Good addition. It's gone on to become an iconic knife.
Yeah. Much like the boxing gloves in Rocky, the knife is pretty iconic with the Rambo character. Yeah. Teasel unsheaths the knife. Says, "Why do you have a knife like this?" Hunting. And I love the answer. What do you hunt? Here you go.
Don't be a wise guy. What do you hunt with a knife?
Name it.
Love that. Name it.
In his mind, you think he's thinking people.
Oh, yeah. Or at the same time, he's like, I'm capable of hunting anything. Name it. Man, beast. It doesn't matter. I'll hunt it. That's it. So the next sequence of events is the police station, the processing. That's what you guys call it, right?
Yeah, processing. Now, you gave me this section of the movie. I'm sure if I'm invited back, I'll be back for later scenes.
Of course. Well, invite. Yeah, sorry, you really bombed this.
It was an audition.
Yeah.
And this is the kind of thing when I was a kid that seemed boring to me. But this few minutes that we watch is chock full of emotion, tension that we see between the two characters, emotions and that contemplation that's going through Rambo's mind. And I know this, breaking down a movie minute by minute, watching in such small chunks, you really get to analyze to a great degree moments like that. That's why I love these little bits that I do and that you do.
Oh, man. Well, it's awesome having you on. And if you haven't already, folks, check out Doug's Rocky Minute podcast. You guys are covering Rocky 3 right now on the Last of the Action Heroes Podcast Network. Doing a great job, of course. You're one of the top shows, man. Your show is very popular, and rightfully so.
I check every month. I check to see how the Rocky Minutes are doing. They're usually one of the more listened to episodes.
Well, Rocky's
I really appreciate it.
Yeah, Rocky's a popular character, and people love those first 6 films, so it's amazing to see. You're doing great work, a great hard journey ahead of you. You'll be done the Rocky films, in 10 years maybe? Or
I don't think I'll ever get back to releasing 5 a week, but I want to get back to doing at least 2 or 3 a week.
I can't wait for my episodes to drop. I was the Mickey death scene.
You were the Mickey death scene.
Yeah, I can't wait. I love it. All right, brother. Anything else you want to plug before we say goodbye?
What about our combination project, the Sylvester Stallone fan podcast that we do with our buddy Craig?
So check that out again on the Last of the Action Heroes Podcast.
Have we done 30?
I think it's about 30 plus episodes we've done. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, where we cover Sly films that are neither Rambo or Rocky. So that's the fun. So if you're a Stallone fan, you're listening to this podcast because you're a Rambo fan, but you're like, yeah, I like other Stallone films. Just Google Sylvester Stallone podcast. It's on the same network feed. You can see it there. We cover stuff like from Escape Plans, Expendables, to Lockup, to Victory, all those films, Cobra. We covered it all. We still have more to do. I think our next one's going to be Escape Plan 3, so get ready for that one.
I think we're done with all the good ones.
We are, officially. Oh, we still have Rhinestone to do, so maybe.
Oh, okay, great.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks for watching. So that's the end. The episode's over.
Nothing is over. Nothing. You just don't turn it off.